All right, we are live. Welcome to our Startup with Ferris live stream. Thank you for tuning in. So, what's new in the world of entrepreneurship? Last week, I spoke with a founder, someone early in their career, and they're debating whether they want to leave their job now and take that entrepreneurial leap or stay around for a couple of years. They can learn more technical, they can improve their technical knowledge and expertise, and they can also use those 2 years to learn more about starting a business. We had a very productive conversation. And then one thing I learned, he said that for a couple of months, he's been very hesitant to reach out to his network and ask for advice. So I laughed politely, of course, and I said, "Hey, this last week, this live stream that we had was about two types of people that will never learn. One is one who's shy and one who's arrogant." And I encouraged him to lean in on his network. And I reminded him of what the co-founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, said: the people around you and the people you interact with and the people you seek their advice, they will shape you. And also, it reminded me of something I heard elsewhere, is that if you want to see where you are in 5 years from now, uh, take a look at the five people you spend most of your time with and the five books you're reading. So the idea here is, I wanted to encourage this entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur to go out and leverage his network. And this is the thing about learning, is that most of us, we struggle with asking others for help. It's maybe human nature. We're not used to it. We're used to the 9 to 5. But it's also important to know that starting a business is a hard thing to do. Starting anything from scratch is hard. And navigating unchartered waters, navigating the obstacles, is difficult to do it on our own. So it is advantageous to lean on those who have gone through these waters before, or maybe similar waters, those seasoned sailors who've been around and have the scars and the wounds that a lot of them would be more than happy to help. I personally know of, I think, I know, not of, I know tens of seasoned, highly professional, highly successful professionals who are more than happy to share with others what they've gone through, what they've learned in their life. As a matter of fact, those my age, older, younger, and they're happy to do it without charging for it, because they want to pass on what they've learned to the next generation of founders. It is, I don't know, maybe as I'm getting older, it is very fulfilling. It's very rewarding to be able to share what you have with others and see them grow and succeed and not do the same mistakes that we've made when we were younger or earlier in our ventures and other ventures. So with that in mind, I want to encourage you to ask us questions about the struggles that you're having, especially in terms of seeking advice and seeking help, because this is the topic of today, is about advisors, is about, who is an advisor? What is it that I need to do to get the most out of those advisors? Who do I pick as the right advisor for me at the right time? And we're likely going to do this in a series. This today will be the first part of it, and then next week we'll talk about other aspects of working with advisors. And I'm not talking about paid advisors. That's one part of it, but also people in your network who you can lean in on, and they're again more than happy to help you. But you got to find the right advisor. So before we go deeper, I want to make sure, I want to make check on technology. It seems we're all good. So starting a business, as I said earlier, starting anything new from scratch is hard. And in this context of entrepreneurship, a lot of questions come to mind. How will I fund my business? How will I cover my expenses that I'm getting today from my salary? Or maybe if I was just laid off, I'm getting used to, I was getting a salary and benefits. How do I learn how to sell, how to market? How do I put together a business plan? Where do I go for help? So a lot of questions come to the mind of an entrepreneur. And again, it is, in my mind, it is natural, because figuring things out from scratch is difficult, and finding advisors, coaches, finding mentors, whatever the label is, whatever the title is something that will have a huge return on investment for you. And then, as if you feel shy about it, if you feel difficult about asking others, again, this is normal. um, just keep in mind that in the future, when as you become more successful, as you have more experience in this field of entrepreneurship, just have a pledge that you will also share with others, that you will help with others. So keep that in mind. And the second thing is, an analogy here, when we were much younger and when we were learning how to drive, if you think about it, we saw a lot of people around us driving, but until we started to get in the car and get behind the wheel, you think it's easier than it is. Initially, we're gripping on the steering wheel. We can't even probably move our hand to go and turn on the radio. If we hear a beep, we're anxious. We're very focused on the road, and we're very stiff. Over time, driving becomes second nature, and entrepreneurship is no different. The difference is, I think Sam Altman said it best. He said, it's hard. Um, it's hard to entrepreneurship is hard to teach, because it's hard to teach original thought. But with that, not but in addition to what Sam said, is that you, as an entrepreneur, there are three things that I think you have to think about and change. One of it is the mindset. So your mindset has to be different. Getting comfortable with the unknowns, getting comfortable with ambiguities, getting comfortable with falling and getting back up, resilience, learning. So there are these things that are, I think, unique, very unique to entrepreneurship, although they might overlap with someone in a career at a company. But the mindset shift that you have to have as an entrepreneur, the skills, technical hard skills and soft skills, and then learning. So so just like we learned how to drive with reading and watching videos and getting the driver's ed lessons and getting behind the wheels and being nervous, and then later, after miles and miles and hundreds of miles, this driving thing that was a big deal at one point in our life, it's second nature. So hopefully, as you get into business and you start to go out and network and work with people in terms of, pitch to people in terms of sales becomes less of an obstacle. You might actually enjoy it and become really good at it. Same thing in marketing, same thing in all of the business functions, whether it's client facing or back office. So think of the difficult things that you've learned in life and you've done on your own. In entrepreneurship is no exception. So with that in mind, I wanna focus on one other aspect, because before we dive into who's an advisor and what's at stake. One is that when it comes to learning and when it comes to seeking the help of others, just reading books or watching YouTube videos ain't gonna cut it. So if you think of a subject that's close to my heart, martial arts. So martial arts, you can go on YouTube and watch a lot of videos, MMA or wrestling or boxing or aikido, and you can, in your mind, in your own mind, you can see how maybe a technique is done, and you can think, you think, yeah, I know how to move and maybe jab or maybe an uppercut or maybe pin someone down or throw someone. In your mind, you might think that, yeah, I've got it. But until you're in the ring until you're maybe punched or you're thrown around, you really haven't experienced martial arts, and you really, you just don't know it. You conceptually have an understanding of it, but until you experience it, maybe you're an armchair expert. You see a lot of the comments on YouTube about this stuff. So the same thing in business is learning about every aspect of the business, getting the help of others to expedite that learning, and then you have to do the work. There are no shortcuts. So I want to talk about two hard truths in business and in learning and in entrepreneurship. But before we do that, let me take a quick pause here and cover a couple of housekeeping items and also see if we have questions. So let's see the questions first, and then I'll cover a couple of housekeeping items. So we have a question. What do you think is the hardest thing to learn when you're starting a business? The hardest thing to learn when you're starting a business are the things that you don't know, of course, and you hate doing. In my mind, it's if I'm a very social person, and I just love to talk to people, and I love to solve problems, whatever problems they are. I think networking, with the idea of going out there and trying to get leads and bring awareness to about you and your business and your company. If you're a social person, that's just going to be very much easier for you than someone who's an introvert and someone who hasn't done any sales and someone who's not very social. So learning that skill, learning if you're not a social person and you're not an extrovert and you're just not used to being out there, learning that part of it is going to be very difficult. The same thing if on the other side, on the other side of the coin, if you're just an amazing project manager, you just get a project, you get the parameters, the scope, the timeline, and you execute it. You make sure it's done properly. The client is super happy. You have amazing client-facing skills, but you just don't know how to sell. You haven't done sales before. So learning these the aspect, learning the required aspects of running a business that you're not good at and maybe dislike is probably going to be the most difficult thing for you to do. Now, they're very potentially there could be very technical or very specialized areas of the business. Of course, those are complex and technical by nature, so you can potentially leverage an expert. So, for example, if you provide financial services consulting, you're a financial advisor, and you're really good in understanding numbers, and you can put things in a spreadsheet, but developing a program that potentially could be collecting data from different investment companies to come up with maybe different models, maybe that's just not you. So potentially you would have to buy that modeling system, or maybe goes to a programmer if you have something unique in your mind in terms of how you want to model the data. So you'd hire you'd hire someone for a highly specialized skill that you don't have. But in terms of running the business, sales, marketing, project management, delivery, HR, those things, it's hard for, I don't know, I haven't run into a lot of people who are great at all of them. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting, part of this work is, and if you've watched some of our videos on business planning, is assess your skills, know the hard skills, the soft skills that you have, and then find ways to learn these other skills and potentially complement them with maybe your first hire or first hires, or maybe a business partner, or potentially, you can get someone to help you as on a contracting basis. So good question on learning. So before I go to the two hard truths about learning and getting the support of others, if you are having some challenges in your business, if you're struggling, if you're having wins, small or big wins, I'd love to hear from you. Leaving me a comment on the platform that you're watching or listening to this episode, or go on startupwithferas.com, Feras spelled Feras, and send me an email. We keep it all confidential. Be more than happy to hear from our community, get updates. I speak with a lot of entrepreneurs, and sometimes I don't hear back from them how things went. So let me know how things are going for you, the struggles, the challenges, the wins, small wins, big wins. I enjoy listening to how our community, how members of our community are doing, and then wherever I can offer advice, I'll be more than happy to do so. And as a reminder, we have our live streams every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we cover a business topic. We're talking about advisors today, and maybe next week and the week after. And then we also answer questions that come to us from our community. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out. And we have someone on LinkedIn. I'll get the name here in a second. They said your sessions are very encouraging. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you as well. Thank you for tuning in. As I always say, a lot of people, tens of people have helped me along the way. And it's just my way of saying thank you and helping others out. So let's talk about the two hard truths about getting help and learning. And this is what we translate internally at Startup with Ferris. We have a number of mantras, and this is one of them: is learn, then seek. So the first truth is that you have to do the work yourself. You have to experience it. There are no shortcuts. So that's one. The second truth is, if you don't tap into the experience, the expertise, the wisdom of others, you will not make it. So there's one thing you have to do to make it, and then the opposite of that. So doing things by yourself, something you have to do, and then tapping into others' expertise is also important. So there's a balance. So the way I think about it is, think about hiring someone for project manager, and you have for project management, and you have no experience in project management. If you don't have the basics, if you don't understand the basics of project management, how to put together requirements and a scope and a timeline and dependencies, if you don't know any of this stuff, it's foreign to you. How are you going to discern a right candidate? So that's why my advice to entrepreneurs is, you can't be the master of everything. You can be a generalist. You should learn enough about every area of the business and potentially specialize in one or two areas. And that would be the subject matter expertise you bring to the business. So that's what I think people struggle with. What do I do by myself? What do I outsource? Or where do I get help? You have to juggle these two concepts together. And hopefully throughout the session today, you'll hear examples on how you can deal with this, and give you that framework at the very end of this episode on how to find the right help. Let's see, we have another quote here. Oops. All right, we're good with the comments and the questions. So when it comes to that second truth, in terms of, you can't make it if you don't tap into the experience of others, I come across different types of entrepreneurs. Some, which I mentioned earlier, those who they'll never learn if they're either very arrogant or very shy. So we did an entire live stream on this last week. If you haven't watched it or listened to it, we'll leave the description. We'll leave the link in the description. So now, if you're not from this category, or you're a bit shy and you've overcome that shyness, then the other category is, I hear from entrepreneurs, we're not sure what to ask. Okay, that's fair. And then the third category is, we're not sure who to ask. So it's fair. All this is fair. It's not unique to you. Again, think of that. Before we went to the DMV to do that dreaded test, you had a number of advisors, and you did your own learning. So who to ask help for is, who's the advisor. You hear a lot of titles, a lot of roles around us. You hear coach, the word coach, the word mentor, the word maybe consultant, and obviously advisor. I don't want you to get stuck on these titles or these roles. I want you to think of those out there who have the experience that you need, who have the expertise that you need, who have the knowledge that you need, those who have some wisdom you can tap into. So these titles, in my mind, in speaking with others, I think they're people think of them interchangeably, whether it's a coach or a mentor or an advisor, or I don't know if there's a universal definition of these different roles and titles. So don't get stuck on the title, or don't get stuck on oh, I got to work with a coach, or I got to work with a mentor. No, I mean that that all is okay. What you need to focus on is that you need to seek help and guidance, and then where can I find this guidance? And as one of the quotes I love the most is, and I use a lot, is what Susan Wojcicki, the ex-founder of, or sorry, ex-CEO of YouTube, she says, don't afraid to ask for help. No one can do it on their own. Or specifically, no one succeeds alone. That's just life. And anyone who tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. And I think if you think of bigger companies, public companies, established companies, successful companies, they have what they call a board of directors, effectively a board of advisors, and these members of the board, they bring in some value to the CEO. So the CEO, he or she, can then leverage that wisdom from the board of advisors to build and grow that business. So maybe as a starting entrepreneur, as an early stage founder, you just started the business, you don't have a board. Doesn't make sense maybe to have a board, but you can tap into advisors when you need them. And I think this idea of there are formal frameworks for this. In my research, I found this concept of getting help from more knowledgeable others, MKOs, as stated by the psychologist Lee Vygotsky. And he came up with this theory on the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development. And we have a slide on this. Let me make sure it's here. And just looking at the comments here, Mofida, thank you so much for your nice comment. Appreciate you joining us here, and thank you for the likes and the comments on LinkedIn. I appreciate that. But if we put the slide up here and maybe enlarge it a little bit, and for those of you listening, we're looking at 3 concentric circles. So if you think of the most inner circle, you'll see this is where the things we can do on our own unaided. So that's the most inner circle. If you look at the outermost circle, this is the zone of things we cannot do at all. And then we have the circle in between the inner circle where we can do things on our own, and then the outer circle where things we can't do. This is where learning takes place with the support of others. So with the support of a professor, if you're in college, you're about to graduate, and you have this business idea, and you don't want to go to the workforce, and you want to start your own business, a professor, or maybe a couple of professors, might be good as advisors for you in this zone of proximal development. It could be if you are again working maybe in a sector, and you've done 20-25 years, and you're amazing at process optimization, and you want to leave and go through your second mountain and set up your own business and do consulting on process automation and process optimization and process automation. maybe the advisors you need in this zone of learning, people who can help you set up a business and how to market it, how to sell it. So think of that learning, that guided learning, as a way for you to go from the things you can do on your own to things that you cannot do today. And there's, if you're interested in these topics like I am, you might have come across this concept of scaffolding, which is basically building and growing with supportive systems and with the guidance of others. And I think the beauty of this is that as you develop, as you learn, as you go through this guided development, over time, you become, you become great at that thing that you just maybe a couple months ago you did not know how to do, and then you don't need that scaffolding. That could be gradually removed again maybe with the guidance of someone who's helping you out. So think of this, um, in the context of entrepreneurship, away from psychology now. uh, in starting a business and growing a business, there's an abundant need for MKOs, for more knowledgeable others. And it's really on you as an entrepreneur to find these people. And I want to give you specific examples here, two examples, one that is very tactical, very specific, and one that's a bit more, where you need strategic guidance. So in the tactical, for the tactical example, let's say you had a business idea, and now you've vetted that idea. You're ready to, how to, where the leads are, and how you can get leads, and you're ready to take that leap, and you want to start that business. And then in your research, you find out that people are talking about entity formation and incorporating your business, and you have no idea what that is. That was definitely the case for me before I started my first business. So what is this thing about business formation, and what is this thing about incorporating? So you do more research. Maybe you go to your chamber of commerce. Maybe you go to a regional office of SBA, the Small Business Administration. You go to some of the online portals, and you'll see a step-by-step guide on how to incorporate. And then you can go to a service like LegalZoom. Again, we're not doing any affiliate marketing here. There are a bunch of them, but that's the one that comes to mind. And you can maybe potentially go and work with an attorney to set up your business. So in your research, you've come to learn about the different types of companies, like an LLC. You can be a sole proprietor, or maybe you can have an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp. So that's that first truth I mentioned earlier, is you got to do the work. You got to do some level. You're not going to be an attorney, but you learn more about the legal setup of a business. And in my recommendation, especially in legal matters, is these portals, these online portals, are good and handy, and I think they can help you set up in a sort of a straightforward fashion. But I personally like to check with an attorney. Yes, it'll cost me a few dollars here and there, or maybe a couple $100 here and there, but the attorney would spend some time with you and will give you a bit more about the pros and cons of an LLC versus an S Corp, especially if they have a good accounting background. They can also give you maybe share with you some ideas about the tax implications of you incorporating a business under a specific legal structure. So again, if you think of this example, what I'm recommending is you do a bit of research and then go get that advice from the expert. And you can apply that to every aspect of the business. If you're hiring, learn about it, and maybe get an HR consultant to help you do the proper things. You can go to some of those payroll services out there. They can help you set up like the workers' comp and everything else. But you got to do some research. You can't outsource. I heard this. You can't outsource your eyes. You have to be looking out. You have to be reading. You have to be learning about every aspect of the business. But you don't have to be a guru in all these areas. You can tap into experts. So that's a very tactical example. Now, moving on to a strategic example. Let's say you've been in business for a year or so, and you figured out sales and marketing, and you're really good at it, and you have leads, and you have sales, and you're starting to be cash flow positive, plus plus, and you've hired someone to actually deliver what you're selling, and they're keeping the clients happy. So you have sales, and clients are happy. You can't ask for more, except if you want to grow. If you want to grow, you have to scale. And to scale, you gotta hire. And before you hire, you want to make sure there's more sales and more revenue coming in. So you decide, hey, I have $20,000 or $30,000 extra from last year's profit, and I want to put together a solid marketing plan so I can explore other growth opportunities beyond my existing ways of getting leads. And I think that's a very smart decision. If you happen to be in that situation, you gotta spend money to make money. Now, the challenge here in this example is this founder, and a lot of these examples are from stories I've heard from other founders. So we're not making this stuff up, folks. So this founder now has $20,000, $30,000, but they have zero experience in putting together a marketing plan, a marketing strategy. What promotions do I use? What channel or marketing program do I use? Do I spend money on paid search on Google or paid Facebook ads? Do I put ads in magazines? Do I put together TV ads, billboards? Do I do search engine optimization? There's so many things you can do in marketing. So in that specific scenario, and going back to our thread here, to our main thread on seeking the help of advisors, potentially you can do things. You can hire someone to run marketing for you, but if you don't have the budget for a hire yet, and the budget is just to do it to spend that budget on marketing efforts, potentially you can hire a fractional CMO, fractional chief marketing officer, a fractional director of marketing, and they can come in and work very closely with you to develop that marketing strategy and potentially walk you through how to implement it, and then you can run with it. So this is an example where you're in a position where you need some strategic advice. So you don't want to just go and do things on your own without knowledge, especially if you have this set aside this budget, 20 or 30K, and you want to make sure it's used effectively and efficiently, and you don't want to end up wasting this time on something that you just don't know anything about, which is, in this case, in this example, marketing. So again, the two principles here, the two hard truths apply, is that you got to learn a little about marketing so you understand the concept of a target audience, of awareness and nurture, lead generation and lead nurturing. There's no escape. You got to learn some of those basics so you can discern when it comes time to hire someone and bring someone to help you. And again, an advisor, if you're working with a business advisor, they can also help you in finding the right talent to support you. So let's see here, before we move on to what's at stake. We covered the importance of learning and seeking the help of others, and who an advisor could be for you. I want to cover two main sections. One is what's at stakes, if what are the stakes of not talking to others and seeking help. And then I want to wrap up this episode today with this framework that will help you pick the right advisor for you. But before we go into the stakes, let's look at what questions we have. So thank you for the question. It says, can you take courses, or do you have to actually work with an advisor one-on-one? Both. So I would say, before you seek the help of any advisor, paid or free or paid. And by the way, I'm not making a recommendation on paid advisor versus free. We'll talk about this later, maybe next week or the week after, because there's a lot of free help out there. So I would say, learn, then seek. That's the mantra we said earlier. Basically, you have to spend a little bit of time learning about what you don't know. So if you think about expertise, if you think about mastery, in my mind, I think of it as a continuum. So you've probably heard about the 10,000 hours before you master something of deliberate practice. So if you, let's say your goal is to be the top HR consultant in helping mid-sized companies revamp and have an effective performance evaluation system. So to get to the top consultant in your region, you need, let's say, the 10,000 hours, right? I mean, if you have 5,000 hours, it doesn't mean you're still a novice. It doesn't mean that you can't help others who have zero knowledge. So in this case of learning, in this specific question, I would say take courses, read books, watch YouTube videos from trusted sources. And I'll talk about trusted advisors at the very end of this episode, this framework I mentioned earlier, because it could be just too daunting, too overwhelming with all these resources around us. So I would say before you speak with someone one-on-one, whether it's paid or free, just do your own due diligence. Go to these meetings with advisors prepared with a lot of context about yourself and about what you want to do, and very specific questions. I think you'll get a whole lot more from speaking with someone one-on-one, if you go unprepared. And we'll talk about this in more details next week. But this is a quick answer to the question. So we covered who an advisor is, or a coach, or a mentor, or a consultant, or a board member. So now, what are the stakes of not talking to advisors? So here, it every time I remember the challenges I faced, and my business partners faced, and the scars. I mean, this stuff, it hurt at the time, and it still hurts today. So my goal here is for you not to repeat, at least not to repeat the same mistakes I made. But the number one, in terms of the stakes, the number one thing is, if you don't seek the help of others, you end up wasting a lot of time and money. A lot of time and money. I mean, experts are not magicians either. They're not going to come and tell you exactly what to do, but they're think of it as more of a GPS, or more of these advisors will give you a general direction. They're not going to give you a map. And this analogy, or this metaphor, is, got to give credit to Adam Grant in his book, Hidden Potential, which I read a couple months ago. And he said each successful person, each now master, guru, each I don't know, millionaire, billionaire, whatever, they charted their own path. They had their own challenges. So when you speak with an advisor, in my mind, don't set your expectations where they'll give you exactly, like, every step you have to take to get to where you want to go. That's unrealistic, and I think that would not be a good formula. I think what you should expect, and what you will get from an advisor, from a trusted advisor, you'll get two things. One is they'll give you the common roadblocks, the common ingredients for success: hard work, resilience, learning mindset, among other things. And they'll also share with you the roadblocks, and those are also common. So the specific path from where you are, let's say you're at $250,000 a year business, and you want to get to seven figures, you want to get to $2 million in a couple of years. Like, I don't think any advisor can give you the exact step to take from here to there, but they can share with you their stories, their experience, what they had to go through, and the external obstacles, and how they dealt with them. That's what you want to take copious notes of. So that's in terms of wasting time and money, learning from these seasoned sailors, as we call them earlier, and learning what is it that they've done and what they didn't do, and why. I mean, ask a lot of questions about why they made certain decisions, and then see if that applies to you. I'll give an example. Accounting. Doing accounting on your own takes time. if you just started and you have a few expenses here and there, put them in a spreadsheet, that's fine. But as you start to have clients and as you start to have payroll and as you start to have vendors and partners, it's just going to take some time. It's just to take some time from you. In my mind, and what I tell entrepreneurs, do not do accounting on your own. It's a waste of time because you should be out there either selling or implementing and delivering so you can make money. So that's where you want to spend most of your time, especially early on. Early on, you got to be selling and delivering. Everything else is a distraction. So an advisor could come in and give you this advice on don't do accounting by yourself. That's the general advice. How to go about that, that's different. You can maybe initially, maybe you have someone in your business who's good in accounting. They do it for you. So it's not you, but someone else. Maybe a spouse, maybe a friend, or maybe you hire someone. You don't need a full-time accountant or a CPA. So there are many qualified accountants and bookkeepers who can come into the rescue. So that's the advice you need is don't do accounting yourself. And then how to go about it, you can figure that out on your own. The other thing is, if you think about, for example, growth, if you're growth oriented, and I advise you to be, this is an unqualified advice, unless you have other personal situation and this is not the time for you to put a lot of effort in the business to grow it. But if growth is part of your goal, part of your target for this year, delaying hiring is going to be a limiting factor for this growth. So an advisor could come in and take a look at your business and say, you're selling, you're busy delivering, plus, check, that's great, but you have no time to grow the business. So potentially hiring someone to help you either with sales or to help you in implementing and in delivery, that might be the most amazing, the most applicable and practical advice that you need to help you unlock that limiting factor of you just being too busy implementing and in the day-to-day, and you're not stepping a bit aside and looking at the business as a whole. So working on the business is different than working in the business. So that's again where a seasoned sailor or an advisor could come in and help you out with. So that's on wasting time and money. Now, in terms of the other thing that's at stake is that you're slowing down your growth. I mean, getting from where you are today to where you want to go takes a lot of time and effort, and takes just a lot of new things you have to uncover. So if in that example I mentioned about hiring, if you're not hiring at the right time, then you're limiting your growth. Also, if you make the wrong hire, especially, well, whether it's sales or delivery, if you make the wrong hire, then that's going to significantly impact your growth. Because initially, if you have a company of 30, 40 people and the wheels are in motion and the momentum is there and you have money, you have recurring revenue or you have projects, if you make a bad hire, it's one of 30 or one of 40 people. But when there's only you and yourself, you yourself and John, or you yourself and Jane, if that's it, just one person, and your first hire is effectively going to take maybe 40-50% of the load off of you initially. So that's a huge impact if you have the wrong person there to work with you and to help you grow. And this is where the help of an advisor in making sure that you do the right things in hiring and you hire the right person is going to be invaluable. And to give you free advice is we did we have an article on the website, I believe, and we definitely have a video, a live stream on 9 tips for 9 best practices for hiring. So before you make your first hire or your second hire, even your 20th hire, take a look at this live stream and see all the different tips and strategies and things that you have to think about as a business owner to make sure you'll have a successful hire. And when I say a bad hire, I'm not saying a bad hiree, because in some cases it's not on the employee. In some cases, especially for new business owners who haven't done a lot of hiring before, you might be rushed to hire because of the revenue. You might be rushed to hire because the client is unhappy and needs someone to be client facing. You make a quick decision without proper vetting of the person you're hiring and without proper expectation setting about what the job involves and what support system the new employees, especially the first hirees, will have, because you don't have a lot of systems, a lot of processes in place, a lot of support. So again, check out that live stream. I don't want to go into it today because we've covered it recently. And again, let me know if you have other tips on hiring and on what's slowing you down in terms of growth. Now, the last big take is about the third big stake that we want to talk about is about solving something that's already solved. See, entrepreneurship is all about solving problems. It's about identifying people's pain points, or maybe their aspirations and things their dreams, and you as a service provider helping them address their pain points, or address the pain points for them, or help them reach and accomplish what they have in mind. So entrepreneurship is all about that. And this one here, what's at stake is that you could potentially spend a lot of resources. You can try to solve something that there's no problem. There's no problem for it to solve, or you try to solve something in a way that's not inefficient, meaning your probably pricing is going to be higher and your delivery cycle might be longer. So if you are vetting an idea today, or if you started with an idea, or let's say you've been in business for a couple of years and things are not going well and you want to pivot, this applies to you right there, because you might be thinking of something and get very enthusiastic about, and spend a lot of resources on, and then wait a second, nobody's going to buy this, nobody's going to, or I'm this problem is solved in other ways. So seeking the advice of an expert, of an advisor. In this case, he or she, they have to be knowledgeable in your domain, in your sector, because you need, in this specific scenario, you need someone who knows your space, someone who knows about your about the market, about the competitors. So seeking the advice of someone who knows your space. So if you come to me and you talk about crypto, for example, and you're thinking of maybe building an app around a specific thing in crypto. I know a little bit about crypto. I dabbled with crypto for a little bit, with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I can maybe speak, on a scale from 1 to 10, maybe at 3, but I'm by no means an expert on crypto. So I can share with you some foundational business principles. You got to work hard, you got to vet. But in terms of me vetting maybe the different apps out there or different services that companies offer, maybe consulting on crypto, I'm not the person. So in a way, I'm a business consultant in that sense. I can give you a broad picture. I can paint a broad picture, and maybe ask you to do X, Y, and Z in terms of vetting. But getting into the ins and outs of crypto is just not going to be me. So I have to find someone who knows that space better. So those are the 3 things that are at stake if you're not getting the help of advisors. One, again, as we said, you end up wasting a lot of time and money, and again, it still hurts thinking of what the things I did, and what I should have sought the help of advisors earlier. And the thing we talked about in terms of slowing down your growth. And the third one is in terms of solving a problem that doesn't need to be solved, or that just doesn't exist. So before we go to the last section of today's episode on how to pick the right advisor and the framework that I have for you. Let us see what questions we have. What are some of the dead ends that advisors helped you to avoid? So, what are the dead ends that advisors helped me to avoid? You know, entrepreneurship is about persistence and not quitting, and I'm all for that. And you gotta do everything you can, and be creative and be resourceful and bend over backward and do all of that, 100%. At times, you have to call it quits. So sometimes stubbornness in certain things, I think, is good. But I remember we had a specific example. We were trying to um, build a scale a training practice, and we were doing extremely well as a business at the time, and we were doing in-person training, and we were charging a premium for that. We are top consultants known in the industry. We had written a book around that time, or we were in the process of publishing the book. So we were sought after, and people would pay us $10,000 a day or $20,000 a day to go on site and train. So that was very profitable business unit training, on site training. So we figured we can scale that and we can grow it significantly bigger, and it can be a like an online course, self-paced. You log into a portal and you go through the different sessions, and we would charge, I don't know, like 199, a fraction of what an on-site custom training course would be. So we put a lot of effort into this, planning, researching, and we were, I'm very competitive by nature, so always looking also at the competitors and what is it that they're doing. A bunch of our competitors, they were doing a lot of training, so we were counting on that there's a market for this type of training, and we went, again, we did everything that we can think of that needs to be done, from planning the course, from developing the course, the Q&A, the quizzes, the portal that's user friendly. We did the we hired someone for actually to manage this, and we spent a lot of money on salary and on marketing, hard earned marketing dollars, and all the planning. And then 6 months into this, we hardly got like one or two, I think maybe one or two registrations for this 199. Like, it was painful. And again, we're the type, at the time, money wasn't an issue. We're very profitable. So investing in a new initiative, we knew it takes time and effort. But at one point, talking to others, and at the time, or later, we also learned from competitors that they were also struggling in scaling their training. And what has happened is that by the time we got to do all of this, there were many. We were very, head down and focused on implementing the online training course. There were so many other resources available, and some of them were free, and it just, our offer wasn't competitive. We still made a lot of money in that in-house training, but this scaling this into an online course at the time was a bit, we came late to the game. So speaking with others helped me with that very painful decision of pulling the plug and killing an initiative that cost us, I mean, it was six digits, like probably close to $200,000. The good thing is that I'm very proud of and thankful for is that the people who were involved in this initiative, we did not fire them. We actually, we had this very frank conversation because they were doing their best. It's just in the market, it was just saturated by the time we finished the course, and the advice from others, and those, including some of the competitors, it helped us reach that conclusion to shut down that service. And the good thing, like I said, is the people, the amazing people who helped us in that initiative, we just had them do other parts, other initiatives. We had them work on other initiatives that they also liked, and then they ended up doing really well as individuals, and we did well as a company with these other initiatives. So long story short is sometimes you give it your best, even if you have the resources, but things don't work out, and getting the help of others will help you, pivot or just call it quits. All right. And there's so many stories, so maybe we'll do another episode just on stories from the lessons I learned sometimes a bit too late. So in this last section, I want to share with you this framework on how to pick the right advisor for your business. And we have yet another Startup with Ferris mantra here. And that is only seek advice from those who have been to where you want to go. So again, only seek advice from those who have been to where you want to go. So I don't remember if this is something I've heard from someone else many years ago, or something we had developed in one of my ventures. I don't remember. So if it's someone else, then credit to them. I'm appreciative. But this is so true and so profound. And the challenge is, especially these days with social media and access to content and access to great content and sometimes not so great content, is it gets really hard to pick the good, the good from the noise, and to find the right people. So in your search for an advisor, I think you'll come across different types of people. You'll come across scammers and charlatans who will promise you eternal youth and how to make millions overnight or maybe over a month. I mean, I don't have to tell you about these. You just got to avoid them like the plague. They're out there. And the crazy part is, if you dig deeper, these folks, or most of them, they haven't tasted success. So avoid this group. The second group is those who are sincere, but they really don't know what they're talking about. And I think in this category, you see people who read a lot, maybe research a lot. They have a lot of impressive theoretical knowledge, but they haven't applied that knowledge. They don't have the experience. And in our culture, if they sound confident, we believe it, we're impressed, and we start listening to them. And then when you start to put what they're advising you on into practice, it fails. So again, do not follow these people. You should dig deeper and find out more about the people you're taking knowledge from. And the third group is, I would say, those who have some experience. So the first group that you want to avoid it, scammers, charlatans. The second group is those who don't have any practical knowledge. They have a lot of theoretical knowledge. And the third group that you also want to avoid, in my mind, is those who have some knowledge and some practical experience, but they suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a cognitive bias that make those who have a limited knowledge about a domain, they overestimate their know-how and underestimate what it takes to achieve something in that domain. So again, that same scenario, if they come across very confident, they're impressive. In our culture, we seem to believe it and roll with it. What I want you to do is to apply this mantra that I said earlier. It should be your go-to filter when you hear from anyone, is especially when you're, I'm not talking about like inspirational like quotes and people who lift you up, but when I'm talking about specific practical tips and advice for your business. Make sure you're listening to and seeking the help of those who have been to where you want to go. Now, in your life, in your network, if you happen to be one of the lucky ones who have people with deep industry knowledge in their industry, they have been to where you want to go. Let's say you're at $500,000 a year for the last 6-7 years, and now we want to go to 7 figures and you're struggling. Speak with someone in your space who has achieved a 7-figure company. Or if you're looking to someone who has gone to an 8-figure company, you got to speak with someone who's done that. And if you happen to have someone in your life who has done that, and they know you well, and they know all the your personality and all the quirks that that you have, and we all have some, and they also care for you. So if you can find someone with these 3 attributes, or they cover these 3 areas, the domain knowledge, they know you, and they care for you, that would be the ideal advisor. Big disclaimer, it's hard to come across people who fit all these all this category. So combine, maybe speak with a couple of advisors, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, but not with too many advisors. It gets too confusing, too overwhelming. And then potentially you can the combined advice, the combined input feedback you're getting from these 2, 3, 4 advisors will give you it will give you the well-rounded advice that you need. So with that, I want to wrap it up here, but we might have a question. Like I said, it's finding who to get the help from is difficult. Don't be afraid to ask, and don't be shy to ask. But before I conclude, let me see if we have another question or a comment. Yes, I think this is the last one. Should I pay for an advisor or coach? If yes, how much would you recommend? You should pay for an advisor or coach, yes, after you exhaust the free resources. So, and then the second part of the question is how much would you recommend? So I'll get to that in a second. But I think, as I said earlier, and we'll talk about this next week, in terms of the types of advisors, and then where to find them and when to speak with them, and how to get the most out of those engagements. You lean on your network. I quoted earlier what Reid Hoffman mentioned about the network, and there's this concept of, is not only like a one-way street. Like, you should also reciprocate. Even if you're struggling, if you just started, you have some knowledge that others don't have. So help others, and then the universe works in amazing ways. There'll be reciprocity, and you'll get help. But I think tap into resources, maybe people who are semi-retired, people who are retired, people who offer free sessions. Be prepared, get the most out of the free resources. And then I think when you need someone to give you more time, more attention, you want to have something more structured, weekly meetings or monthly reviews, that's I think when it'll make sense to get an advisor. Or if you're the top where you need someone to kind of be on your case every week, maybe more like a coach would be probably a better setup for you. So that's what I would recommend. And then in terms of how much you recommend, don't go cheap. It's different in different markets, but I know folks who charge $500 an hour. I've hired some of those before. I know people who would come in and charge you, say, well, our minimum engagement is going to be $10,000 a month, and for 3 or 6 months, and they're not doing things hourly, but maybe you're just starting, and that kind of setting is not suitable for you. So maybe you find someone who works with the companies your size, and if you're early stage, you don't have that kind of cash, maybe find someone who can give you strategic advice, and you do the implementation, and maybe they could be very expensive. So I think especially on strategy, especially on just overall business advice, business direction, and like making like major, if you have like a major initiative, you don't want to go cheap on that. Bring someone who might be expensive, but they will help you save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and also get you there faster. And then on tactical things, I think you can find probably very, very competitive talent, and find someone maybe if you happen to be in an expensive area like the Bay Area, maybe you can find someone somewhere else where they're more it's more economical for you to hire them. So that is my answer here on hiring someone or getting the help of someone. So exhaust your free resources, and then go and hire someone. And speaking of free resources, we offer two. This is my time to pitch. I'm not pitching a service, not yet. We're not selling services yet, but we offer 2 free sessions every week, no charge, no gimmicks, no strings attached. It's my way of saying thank you to those who have helped me. So you can go on our website, startupwithferris.com, Feras, and go to the Ask Ferris and fill out the form, or use the Calendly feature there and set up a meeting. I'll be more than happy to spend 30 minutes with you. Usually extends to 45 minutes, and answer a question that you have. So again, the more prepared you come to the meeting, the more I think you can get out of it. And trust me, I learn a lot from these meetings. So it's a two-way street. So don't feel shy or bad, for asking for help. And keep in mind that this entrepreneurial journey is a long journey. Even when you reach that first milestone, that 7 million figure, now you're going to double that, you want to grow that. So there's always learning involved. So just commit to learning, commit to that mindset of growth, and surround yourself, whether it's employees or partners or advisors, with those who really care for you, and they have an vested interest in your growth and success. And be generous with them, help them out where you can. And like I said, if we can help on our end in any way at Startup with Ferris, just let us know. Check out this YouTube channel. If you're liking this content, hit the like button, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Share this video, and then again, go to startupwithferris.com and sign up for our daily newsletter, the Daily Advisor, where we share with you strategies and tips on how to build and grow a 7 or an 8-figure business. That's it for today, and see you next time.